Good morning, Vector News 24 viewers. I'm Chis with your 10:30 a.m. market update from Tokyo on April 20th, 2026. We'll talk about the Nikkei's move so far today, the latest economic data from Asia, and then dive into the most important crypto news hitting markets right now. At 10:30 Tokyo time, the Nikkei 225 is trading around the 38,700 level, up roughly 0.6 to 0.7% on the session. That lines up with recent data showing the index slightly higher for the day, with a modest gain of about 0.65% versus the previous close. The opening chop has mostly washed out, and the broader tone in Japanese equities is cautiously positive, supported by a mix of stronger-than-feared earnings and stability in global risk appetite. Key sectors like tech and financials are helping to carry the rally. SoftBank and a handful of banking names are in the green, while industrial and export-linked plays are also benefiting from the dollar still hovering near the mid-150 yen range. The idiosyncratic risk from the Middle East energy shock and higher oil prices is being balanced by the fact that Asian economies are still expected to grow above the global average, which keeps the underlying backdrop more supportive than purely negative. Zooming out to Asian economic data, the IMF's latest regional economic outlook for Asia and Pacific, released in April, projects solid but slightly slower growth for the region this year. Asia's economy entered 2026 on solid ground, but the war-driven energy shock has pushed inflation higher and squeezed budgets, especially in fuel-importing countries. That has exposed some vulnerabilities, yet overall growth remains resilient, driven by strong domestic demand and continued investment in infrastructure and digital industries. Meanwhile, the World Bank's East Asia and Pacific update notes that regional growth is projected to slow slightly in 2026, largely due to weaker property-related investment and subdued consumer confidence in China. However, long-term growth is still being driven by capital accumulation and ongoing reforms, which is why investors are treating Asia as a source of relative strength even as global risks rise. For Japan specifically, trade figures, inflation data, and PMI readings released earlier this week broadly suggest that the economy is holding steady. Business sentiment in manufacturing and services has improved modestly, and inbound tourism and IT-related investment are helping to offset some of the drag from higher energy costs. That macro picture is visible in the Nikkei's ability to hold above key technical levels and grind higher, even on days when headlines are mixed. In the broader Asian equity space, we're also seeing renewed optimism in markets like India and parts of Southeast Asia, where earnings seasons have been more robust and local policy support is helping. The risk-on impulse is still being tested by geopolitics and energy prices, but the overall message is that Asia is still the growth engine of the global economy, with its share of world output projected to exceed 1/3 by the end of the decade. Now let's shift to crypto. Bitcoin is currently trading in the high 60,000s, consolidating after a volatile run that included a sharp test of the 70,000 support zone earlier this month. On-chain sentiment indexes have swung from extreme fear back toward a more neutral range, and spot BTC ETFs are still seeing steady inflows, which is helping to keep the floor under the market even as short-term volatility spikes. Ethereum is trading around the 2,200 to 2,300 level, with analysts pointing to a combination of network upgrades, improving gas fee efficiency, and renewed institutional interest in staking and yield products. Ethereum-denominated derivatives and stablecoin-denominated pairs are showing firmer liquidity, which is a positive sign for longer-term participation. Among altcoins, XRP stands out again. After a recent rally, XRP is holding in the $1.30 to $1.40 range, with CoinShares data showing meaningful weekly inflows into XRP-linked investment vehicles. That institutional interest is being watched closely, especially as regulators in the U.S. continue to debate the final shape of crypto-related rules. At the same time, earlier year weakness in crypto-linked stocks like Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and Marathon Digital has been a reminder that regulatory uncertainty can still rattle the broader ecosystem. Looking at the big picture, the Nikkei's 1030 move today fits into a broader Asian-centric growth story that's being tested, but not broken, by higher energy prices and geopolitical risk. The same macro backdrop is also influencing crypto, where investors are balancing regulatory headlines with the reality of growing institutional adoption and improving on-chain fundamentals. For Vector News 24 viewers, this means watching the Nikkei.